What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Stoppage Time Stooges. This is a bit of a different episode. As you can see by the title, we're going to be discussing the Concacaf Nations League. Three-time champions, United States. Andrew, for those watching YouTube, showing off the jersey. Got the scarf on as well. Shout out to the German-U.S. game that me, Andrew, and Ricardo went to. That was a good one. Guys, how we doing?
You! Yes!
Didn't even.
Hey!
Scared me. I was like, what the hell?
That was quick. That was good. That was good.
Gotta be
No,
more
we love it.
alert.
We love it.
Yeah,
that's
that sums it up.
Yep.
Man.
We're great. Jacob, are you just fine?
Yeah.
Just fine.
Oh, you know, I
You
gotta think of a
read
different.
from-
I gotta think of a different word. All right.
Mid.
I love that. 5-second break. Gotta think of a different word.
All right.
All right.
Hey, you know what? That works.
It works.
A new word every episode. But yeah. So for those of you, if you didn't get to watch over the last couple of days, of course, March Madness is around for many of us, so totally understandable. The United States won the CONCACAF Nations League for the third straight year, beating Jamaica in a very uninspiring performance in the semifinal and handily beating Mexico in the final. Twice in the last 3 years, they've beaten Mexico in the final, 2-0. It's a good time to be the dominant team in CONCACAF. But again, much more work to be done going into Copa America. We'll discuss that in the coming months. But Andrew, I'll start with you. Just overall thoughts on yesterday's match.
I mean, we're given score predictions, and I was like, it's all too easy. It's 2-0. It's 2-0. It always will be for the rest of eternity. I think I was reading a stat. This is the since the turn of the century, this is the 10th time USA Mexico has ended 2-0 in favor of the US. So I mean, it's just going to keep happening, and we got to accept it. This is, I mean, I've never seen a more talented US side, and I've never seen a worse Mexico side. This is, I mean, it was pitiful. This was the most CONCACAF game. Totally what I was expecting. Just like poor quality on the pitch, hard fouls, referee not being able to control the match, and then the Mexico fans acting like crybabies. It's rinse repeat with this type of final. But we'll surely get into players that disappointed us and blew us away. But man, Gio Reyna, I rate him higher than Pulisic right now internationally. He's our glue guy. We need him to play when he's healthy.
You describe him as a glue guy?
They are a completely different team.
No, I know, but I think he's a little bit better than like a glue. I don't know.
Sure,
glue
but I
guys
mean,
are like not as I don't know.
No. But what I mean is when he's off the pitch, you have a completely different US. They play a totally different style. They play more creatively. It's more free flowing with Gio on the pitch as a 10, and him moving to the 10 is the best thing that could have happened to this US side. And finally, because people have been saying for years, Gio should be playing the 10, and Greg kept putting him out in the wing. He said, no, this guy's a winger. Then he had his little sabbatical after his little beef with Claudio and Danielle, and
his I don't want to curse,
and
his
then
parents.
and Anthony Hudson and BJ Callahan saw the vision and said, Greg, this is how you play Gio Reyna. This is how you play.
It's the prophecy.
The American Wonder Kid. And Gio Reyna has never gone back. He won player of the tournament. this was a good Gio Reyna game who dropped back further than he usually does. I was kind of shocked about that, especially in the first half. I thought maybe Greg should have played him a little higher as a 10, but whatever. Thank you, Tyler Adams. I was dead wrong on before the match. I saw it at 11, and I'm like, why are we starting Tyler? I love Tyler. Definition of a leader. Didn't bat an eye to him being named the captain at the World Cup. I thought that was deserved. But man, he hasn't played. He's been hurt most of the year, and Johnny Cardoso is having a standout time at Real Betis. But man, Greg made the right move. This is why I'm not managing the US. Greg was absolutely right starting Tyler Adams, and who knew he could bang one, a bombazo from 35 feet, 40 feet. Insane. To beat Memo Ochoa, who definitely was not expecting that. Definitely did not see that coming.
No chance.
Jesse Marsh up in the studio area screaming diagonal chip for Tyler, who he didn't think he had that in him. You know, I was like the Shaq meme. I was not familiar with your game. I apologize to Tyler Adams. I was not familiar with his game. So Mexico is dreadful, and for most of the match, I would say up until Tyler Adams' goal, the US were pretty dreadful too. But then they got that lead, and I think it all changed. It all went in the US's favor. And I'll finish off this. I cannot stand Greg wearing t-shirts in a final. He had last night. I know. Yeah, I know. States for the World Cup. Last night was USA. At least it was USA.
At least it's better merch,
right? But like, Jamie Lozano at least had a vest and
Chocolate manager anyway.
Yeah, and a turtleneck. I mean, he dressed like he was managing a final.
Didn't manage a final though.
No,
Greg dressed
no.
like he's managing an intramural final.
Yes, that's my point.
Don't get me started on Berhalter's attire.
Ricardo, that's the only win Mexico had last night. That's the only win. I don't care. Jamie Lozano, he looked like he was managing a final. But other than that, Mexico looked like the intramural side.
Yeah.
So 2-0, as it forever will be. Good performance from the U.S. Now it's time for them to prove it in Copa America. Go to the semis. Why not?
Or just win the whole thing. That too.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Well, when pigs fly. When pigs fly, we'll do that. That's not gonna happen. We're gonna win Copa America. I mean, that'd be great. I'd be shocked. But anyhow, shall I go?
Ricardo, what are you thinking?
Or want Ricardo to go?
What am I thinking? Well, I said this to you guys. It was always 2-0. That's pretty much. It kind of just went how I expected it to go. It's just, Mexico kind of sitting back, not really much of a threat offensively, other than maybe one chance in the second half that was squandered by Hugo Martin. He had an angle. It was kind of a tough angle, but the left foot, the left or the right side of the goal was open. He just completely shanked it. And then, Gio scores a few minutes after that chance goes, and that pretty much sealed it. So, from a U.S. perspective, yeah, they have dominated Mexico for years now. For maybe the first, I feel like there was a few years where it was the opposite. It was Mexico kind of dominating the U.S. and it's just totally flipped now. Like there's just no turning back now. I think for the foreseeable future, it's going to stay this way because, you just look at Mexico. I said I ranted about them last week to the point where I almost cursed. Oh, I did curse, but I was like, it's just a joke with Federation. Like they can't get any young talent. They play a bunch of players from the Mexican League. Not enough of them are in Europe. And that used to be the case for the U.S. And now it's, again, the opposite. So the U.S. clearly trending in a very good direction, and they have been for years now. Mexico very much just, falling from, the heavens. It's just, it's awful from them. But yeah, U.S. very much deserve to win this game. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Before someone else goes, can I quickly point something out real quick?
Sure.
I think Tactical Manager said this, and I was like, just totally right. And this played out the same exact way last night. Even though the U.S. has an absolutely clear quality advantage over Mexico, Mexico are so stubborn. They still play like they're so much better. They think in their heads.
I don't know if they do though.
They play. They're so stubborn. This is why they keep losing. They try to press forward, and I don't know. It just this generation. You're absolutely right. No identity with Mexico, but they still think that they're the same Mexico from even 10 years ago. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Jacob?
I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm just going to spread it out throughout the episode.
For people listening on the audio-only version, Ricardo is just waving a small U.S. flag here and there. It's, randomly.
Yeah, I think Mexico, if they playing wide open is stupid, especially considering their, deficiencies. I think they ought to try and be more defensive and, try and have like a brick wall. Anywho, as far as this final is concerned, I thought that this performance was so much better than the pathetic Jamaica performance. I know that it was still a little lackluster. We're never going to play a perfect game. Like, that's just not going to happen unless you have to play, like, I don't know, a Gabon or, I don't know, as Afghanistan. We're not going to have a complete game. We just don't have that kind of coaching quality, whatever. But I thought this performance was, again, so much better than the Jamaica performance, which was pathetic, and we'll get to that later. It was nice to see the midfield three of Tyler Adams, Gio Reyna, and Weston McKennie, which is what I said that they should do, Berhalter should do every game, and I stand by the fact that that's the midfield three now and in the future. Like that's the midfield three that I want to see the next World Cup, personally. I think that's the best three midfielders that we have. I think they played really well together. And it's nice to see Gio Reyna play with confidence and play as a free-flowing 10. It's nice to see Tyler Adams score a goal. It's not really his forte. And it was great to see Weston McKennie really kind of control the game as a midfielder and the role that he was playing. I do have some critiques. I'm worried about Timothy Weah. We talked about this before the show. I understand that he's almost a defensive forward, but I would like to see him I wish he could just do a bit more as far as goal contributions are concerned. I don't think it's much for me to ask for him to give me more than 3 goal contributions in like a big sample size. And this is not a big sample size, but nonetheless, I still want more out of him. I think he has more to give. And for him to be such a shoe-in the team is a bit, really? I mean, that's where I'm at. I know we'll talk about Santi Gimenez. I don't know why he was not starting. What? That was just made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And but otherwise the game against Mexico was a good performance, much better performance, and it's great to. And for those who don't know, Dos Cero is 2-0. For those who don't speak Spanish, the Dos Cero, as they've been saying, is 2-0. And I also think Memo Ochoa, who I do love, is starting to show his age. Yeah. I honestly think he could have saved both of those goals.
I know that, that's a good point, because the discussion on social media about that second goal in particular.
Yeah, that one.
Probably should have been able to cover his near post. maybe at a different stage in his career when he's more agile and younger, he's covering that. But yeah, that's I mean, it's pretty remarkable that he's still the goalkeeper. I think that kind of echoes the problems with Mexico. This is a team that's relying on a goalkeeper that's near 40 years old now.
Yeah, I think he's 38.
38.
And this is, I mean, Ricardo, you touched on it before, the lack of development there's very few young, youthful, exuberant players in this setup. And that's the difference. I mean, they're holding on to a generation that was so dominant, and there's no players coming in. I mean, the guy that's supposed to be their key standout player is Chucky Lozano, and he has bounced around in Europe. He's now at PSV, and he's not really – I mean, there's more than a handful of players outshining him there. And, that's just, the standout player for them if he's not performing well in Europe. I mean, there's one of the 1,000 problems. And I'd like to read out the last team for the U.S. that beat the last team that lost to Mexico in a competitive match. That was in 2019 Concacaf Gold Cup Final. Zach Steffen, Tim Ream playing left back, Aaron Long, Matt Miazga, and Reggie Cannon. And then further forward, you have Michael Bradley, Weston McKennie, who was starting to get involved at that point, Pulisic, who was, again, starting to find his feet, Paul Areola, who, MLS
Greek
player.
fave.
Greek, holy smokes, I can't speak. Greg, one of his guys, Josie Altidore, and Jordan Morris. I mean,
Jordan Morris.
Yeah.
No, I don't have to excuse for Jordan Morris, but Josie Altidore.
And then if we even take it a step further, the three players that came off the bench, Christian Roldan, recently a member of this team, Jossie Zardes, and a guy named Daniel Lovitz who plays for Nashville. I've never even heard of him. So let's just say things have changed since 2019. You guys mentioned it. I echoed what Andrew said earlier. I think the gap between these two is as large as it's ever been when the U.S. is the more dominant team. I mean, Mexico, I don't even recall, besides the chance to Martin in the second half, I don't think there was any other opportunities for them. And to me, and I watched bits and pieces of the 3-0 win against Panama. I think it was 3-0. Set pieces are what helped them. Alvarez got on the end of one.
Luis Chavez is a great set piece taker.
Yeah.
Yes, he is very good. That's it, though.
That's it, though. I mean, and Mexico time and time again has fallen short of expectations in World Cups, in Gold Cup. I mean, they won the Gold Cup last year. That's fine, but that's the expectation for them. They're still living
also a USB team. Not forget.
Right. The expectations for them are to win every trophy, just like the United States is now. But honestly, I think Canada's put up a better fight against the U.S. in recent years than Mexico in certain matches, at least.
Wow.
And Mexico, Canada, you can argue one or the other, but again, the fact that we can even have a conversation about Canada or Mexico just tells you everything you need to know, because Canada went on a remarkable run in World Cup qualifying, winning, I guess, Concacaf in that aspect, and had a disappointing World Cup. Blew a couple leads in that, but yeah, I just think the U.S. This was the expectation. You have to win the gold. You have to win Gold Cups. You have to win the Nations League. What are they going to do in the summer? That's the next step, because until we see them beat a Uruguay in the group, a Colombia or a Brazil in the round of 16, that's kind of what the path holds if things go right. That's the next step. They've dominated this, region at this point. Mexico is miles behind them in development, in talent. So, yeah, I think the U.S. were much better. Jacob, you put it really well. The Jamaica match was not good, and we would be having a totally different conversation if an own goal doesn't go off Corey Burke. I mean, it's a totally different scenario if they are playing in a third-place game at 6 p.m. yesterday instead of playing in a final. So, yeah, we're very fortunate to have gotten through that Jamaica match, a very weakened Jamaican side, missing Michael Antonio, Leon Bailey, Damari Gray through suspension. But, you get a little luck. You take care of business. Haji Wright, thank you for stepping up because, without him burying those chances, who knows? So we'll talk more on standouts and disappointments. But overall, I think the biggest takeaway is just how big of a gap it is. The United States is 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of Mexico. And I don't know if Lozano's, the manager has, done some good things, but, this isn't good enough. I mean, they were really, really bad yesterday.
They're definitely not. He definitely shouldn't be sacked.
No. But again, the expectations are very high with that.
Absolutely.
Fan base.
I think they'd wait until after Copa America to do anything.
I think the Federation said they would stick it out with him until the World Cup, like that he would be the manager going into the World Cup. So that's 2 years we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So that's a long time and a lot. And with the Federation specifically, they're very impatient when it comes to, waiting for results because they're not very patient. And so they're ready to pull the plug in no time at all.
And, that reminds me, and again, club football is very different from international, but kind of reminds me of the way Watford operates or in Norwich. At Watford in particular, I mean, in the years that they've been in the Premier League, they just chop and change managers left, right, and center. Obviously, it's a little more of a path or, a detailed, process where they've sacked managers in Mexico. But, I think it's difficult for players to just change management, change tactics. So, I think they need to remain a little patient here. But, I think you put it well, Ricardo. I think that the Federation needs to, be a little more patient here, at least. I mean, they can't just keep changing managers. At some point, you have to just try to ride it out with someone, give them some time, and hope that, they can embed a couple more under 23 players who are going to start shining in Liga MX or, in Europe per se.
Well, that's the problem. Liga MX is not doing a good job of developing these players.
That league is awful.
They're really not doing a good job of that. I mean, they only have eight total Mexican players in Europe, I think I saw.
Yeah, it's not
total. Their whole pool. Yeah, it's poor. And more players are coming back to Liga MX. So like even Chucky before he went to PSV, he was rumored to come back to maybe even LAFC. Like it's crazy. So it's not changing anytime soon. That's the problem. Like their current under 15 situation is poor. Their youth, it's to the point where they're trying to recruit dual nats born in America, which Mexico. I mean, it would be easy for them in the past to recruit them, but it's not too easy anymore to get them. I mean, we saw Ricardo Pepi choose the U.S. over Mexico, and imagine if he stuck with Mexico instead of the U.S. But and you look at all these American, it's like we're seeing American Wonder Kids every other week now. I mean, we're looking at the news of, who knows if he's the next Freddie Adu, but Kevin Sullivan, who's about to sign with Manchester City. It was one of the best developmental programs in the world. So it's not stopping for the U.S. and Mexico is just stalled. So who knows when it's really going to change for them.
One player before we move on, I think you put it perfectly, Andrew. Just the amount of players that are even thinking about going back. Perfect example is Diego Lainez, who was at Betis. He went on loan to Braga. He scored in that first Concacaf Nations League Final in 2022. He's now at Tigres. He's 23, should be playing in Europe, and he just failed over there. And that's just perfect example of what's going wrong. I mean, those should be your outside forwards, Gimenez and Lozano, playing with a number 9 in front of them. So, yeah, it's from a Mexican point of view, it's very disappointing. But we'll see if they can turn the page for Copa America, because it's coming quickly. So we'll see how they perform in their group. But let's touch on
real quick. You mentioned Diego Lainez. He's the last person to score for Mexico in a competitive match against the U.S. We're not counting El Cachico. You're not counting that.
Wow, that's crazy.
He's the last one to score in a competitive match against the U.S. That's all the way back in early to mid 2021. So it just shows how poor it's been for them. I think the goal differential their last 7 matches has been 15-4 to the U.S.
It's a very bizarre set of circumstances. I mean, that's just a crazy stat. And Mexico has been one of the more threatening teams going forward. The previous years. I mean, Ricardo, you mentioned the dominance that they had prior to that period, but it's completely gone away. And I mean, yesterday just kind of is the next bad loss for them in terms of just how badly they performed. But let's touch on some standouts and disappointments just from a U.S. perspective. Jacob kind of mentioned one with Timo Weah, who needs to, and I agree, needs to be a little more involved in goal involvements. That's your job as a right winger. And, he's had some moments, scored in the World Cup, but I would agree. But let's start from a positive point of view. Andrew, who stands out at one player in particular that had a good 2 games for the U.S.?
Gio Reyna. I mean, it's clear. But if we want to, go for maybe a deeper cut, do we really have to give anyone else? I mean, I don't think there's been many standouts for the U.S. other than Gio Reyna. Weston McKennie was solid in both matches. He wasn't poor, but it just the Jamaica match just left such a stain, a bad taste in my mouth that I don't see many other players really standing out other than Gio Reyna. In the time that he played and playing most 90 minutes last night, I mean, like I said, when he is off the pitch, the U.S. just is a different team. And it was proved more than ever in the semifinal and final whenever Gio Reyna was on the pitch versus when he wasn't. So, and that's not to bash Malik Tillman, who's had a decent year at PSV, but it's a totally different situation. So Gio Reyna, goal involvements, and he's only 21, so it really is a good bright spot. Hopefully Dortmund figures him out. Maybe if Terzic is out of there or just something happens. Maybe it's a Weston McKennie situation where they regain faith in him. Who knows? But he needs to figure out his club situation. But internationally, he's just been incredible.
Yeah, he's doing so much good things. And we talked about this off air, just the joy in his press conference or his post-game chat. I mean, that's just everything that you need to know. I mean, if he's playing a club that respects him and was willing to give him minutes and the opportunity, I mean, look at what Christian Pulisic is doing at Milan after going years of in the team, out of the team, injured, not injured for Chelsea. He's now playing every week, and he's an important player for a team that's in the Europa League quarterfinals, near the top 2 in Serie A. I think if he can find the right situation, maybe it's not Dortmund, and I don't, or maybe he gets, like you said, a Weston McKennie type situation where the manager doesn't trust him. He goes back, and all of a sudden he's in the team every week. I don't know if that is the type of way Dortmund runs because, again, they have a lot of good wingers. But it's an interesting dynamic. Ricardo and Jacob, any other standouts for you?
I mean, you got to go with Haji, right? I mean, considering how he played in the game against Jamaica, where he came out as a sub and scored 2 goals. I thought he played really well. Obviously, Gio Reyna. I thought Tyler Adams, you got to give him credit for scoring a goal. And just McKennie, I feel like McKennie really has started to find his form, and this seems like this whole season between his play at Juve and Juventus, rather, and the national team, he just seems like he's really starting to feel on top.
Ricardo?
I mean, it's Haji Red and Gio right now. Those are the two obvious ones. Yeah, I don't have much more to add other than that.
And it's going to be interesting to see how we operate with our strikers going forward because, again, Josh Sargent was going to be in this team, and now this maybe complicates things a little differently. I think Balogun's probably still the number one, but Haji Wright, if he continues to score goals for Coventry, I know he's playing off the left, at least makes things more interesting. And again, I think this is a good problem to have. You have maybe now 4 strikers that you can rely upon. Brendan Vasquez is doing some good things at Monterrey. This is a nice thing to have because, again, previous years, I mean, we talked about the lineup from 2019. You had Josie Altidore, who was in his mid-30s at that point. Now you have, multiple players in their early to mid-20s who are thriving in Europe. So it's a good problem to have. But let's go a little more negative and, be a little critical of some players. I'll start with one. I think Joe Scally really wasted an opportunity in that first game. He's had a solid season for Gladbach. I know I haven't watched a ton of them, but the reviews on him playing in a couple different positions, right wing back, right center back at times, I think he's had a pretty good season. And to not take advantage to at least make Greg question who he was going to play at right back in the final, I think that's a wasted opportunity for a player who's only 21, so still very young. And, the story's not completed for him, but I thought that was an opportunity for him to potentially start in a final. And unfortunately, he had to get dropped after 45 minutes. So if I had to go with one disappointment, I think Joe Scally's certainly one.
Yeah, I'm going to go, and I love this guy to death, my boy A-Rob, Anthony Robinson. His play, he always, when he plays well, he always shows up on your screen, making a great defensive play. His hustle, his energy, his breakaway pace. He was a ghost. Especially I think against Jamaica. But Joe Scally was dreadful. Talk about ruining an opportunity. And then to have Serginho Dest put up a solid performance, a decent performance right after that, definitely bad for Joe Scally. But Anthony Robinson, who is having probably, along with Weston McKennie and Pulisic, the best U.S. club season right now, with his goal involvements right now too, as well, at Fulham. 6 or 5 assists? I forget. But he just was a ghost, which, as a defender, that's, typically fine. But Anthony Robinson usually is involved with a lot of things in Fulham. You would hope to see some of that with the national team. And he usually is. And he was scoring for the national team the last cycle, or the last break against Trinidad. So, I mean, see what happens. But, Anthony Robinson. I was hoping I'd see a little more of him. He gets me juiced up. Talking about players that make you want to run through a brick wall. Anthony Robinson does, and didn't see him. I didn't even notice his haircut till late. that sure didn't help him.
For me, I know this is maybe sound a bit much, but I know Pulisic is very important to this team, but I don't think he played that great in either of these two games. And I feel like he had a lot of opportunities to be involved in goals and assists, and he didn't capitalize on them. I'm not saying he wasn't bad. I just don't think that he was particularly good. And I think if he played better in these two games, he wouldn't have had to worry about, the own goal against Jamaica. They would have been more convincing rather than that's it. And again, he's still really important to the team. To me, he's a shoo-in to start every game that we play if he's healthy. And obviously he's having a great year at AC Milan. But I just thought in these two games in particular, I don't think that he played good enough considering the circumstances that were in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, mine's Scally. Just again, you already said it, Christian, but yeah, I mean, just very disappointing that he didn't at least try and challenge for the starting position. Because I mean, yeah, it was just poor getting. I mean, he was the reason. I mean, it was the goal of Jamaica score that he wasn't the one covering. He should have been covering. I forget who it was.
Sleeping.
The score. What was it?
Yeah,
he was sleeping, and he was like,
no, that's what I'm saying. It's like he
DeAndre Yedlin would not let
awareness
that happen.
there, like
DeAndre Yedlin. Oh,
I mean, come on. We watched Scally. He's not good.
He also got carded in the 19th minute, didn't he? Like, didn't do himself any favors. So
yeah, that was a very, very bad first half.
Yeah. So
and honestly, it was really bad second half too. Which Jacob, you mentioned it could have been a lot different. Pulisic puts that chance away. Yeah, Jamaica's a game we'd like to forget for certain. So, yeah, I think that's enough standouts and disappointments. Let's talk about a player who's probably disappointed from a Mexican perspective. Santi Gimenez. I think he was an unused sub against Panama, if I remember correctly, and came on when it was 2-0 and tried to change the game against the United States. Got booked for simulation on a penalty that was awarded. Then obviously VAR checks it, takes it away. Andrew, you've been talking very highly of him this season. He's obviously done very well at Feyenoord. What do you think of him not playing or at least not playing from the start in either of these games?
El Tree, what happened? These guys told me a couple months ago that Santi Gimenez was going to be sold to Real Madrid for $80 million. Look what happened.
That was a conversation.
Remember? That was just this season. These El Tree fans were saying that. And look at the situation now. Oh, no, yeah. Ricardo, I can confirm, was not one of those. Santi was an unused sub against Panama. And to be fair, they were scoring against Panama, so it's not like, they necessarily needed them, but it was just a weird situation. And then he came on against the US, and he just went out guns blazing. He's like, I'm getting an opportunity. I'm gonna shoot whatever I can, and that's what it looked like. He he didn't have any composure, which is what you need as a number 9. But he, I don't know what's going on. If this is Lozano's if other players fit Lozano's system better, I'm not too in the weeds of that. But if you're gonna give me, if you're gonna make me pick between Santi Gimenez and Julian Gimenez,
or Martin,
or Martin.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I love Gimenez because he's born in Colombia, and then he, started playing Liga MX. He's got his Mexican citizenship, and good for him. Sure. But he wasn't going to play for Colombia. But Santi Gimenez should be downright angry, and this is going to affect his situation. We all think he's moving away from Feyenoord. I think he's moving away from Feyenoord this summer.
Fair, yeah. The big question is where.
Yeah, well, that's the problem now.
Yeah.
And this is going to help fuel that. Like, clubs are going to see this. He's being unused in his, national team selections. And, what are clubs going to think about that? These bigger clubs in Europe in the top 5 league. So this is, I think, downright just mismanagement from the Mexican Federation. It's hurting one of their more naturally talented players, especially in a generation that's so weak. One of their few bright spots you're barely playing. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't have an answer other than just pure confusion.
I agree. I don't really get it. I don't understand why you wouldn't have someone in a team who has 21 goals in their league, regardless of if it's the Eredivisie or whatever. It's not like you have a lot of better options in place of him. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm guessing that there's something with him and the manager or him and teammates. Something maybe he doesn't work hard in training. I have no idea. I don't want to throw anything out there. I'm just trying to think of reasons why he wouldn't be in the team, because it shouldn't be because of his level of ability, because that would just make absolutely no sense.
Yeah, just bad. I mean, this is arguably your best forward at this point. Your best youngest talent.
Yeah.
You're not playing him. You're not starting him. Like, it just, I don't know. He could have played for Argentina. He could have chosen them, and instead chose Mexico, thinking he was going to play. And of course, I mean, I don't know what the deal is, but it's probably something with tactics, something with just like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. I don't care if he doesn't fit the tactics. This dude's the best goal scorer they have. So yeah, there's not really much of an excuse for not starting him. That's just bad.
And this isn't the first time he's not started in a big match.
Yep.
He started in that first leg of the game against Honduras in the quarterfinals, I think that was. And, he was brought on as a late sub in that crazy game. Andrew, I know you watched it. I did as well, that second leg. Then, again, Panama unused. I mean, it's a bizarre thing. And, again, this is a player that's scoring goals in European competitions. He's scoring in his league. And Henry Martin has been the guy he's been trusting ever since he came to the job, Lozano. So you're telling me that you couldn't have played with 2 strikers from the beginning of the second half? I mean, the United States were not good in the first half, but Mexico were even worse. So, I just think one of the big problems with yesterday from a Mexico perspective was that they waited way too long to make a change. And Greg, who's been criticized for a wide variety of things, I think he got pretty much every substitution close or perfect yesterday. And Lozano got them wrong because he waited till whatever, the 65th minute, 70th minute. They needed a game changer in from the beginning of the second half, and that was Santi Gimenez, and he waited way too long. So just another interesting, problematic thing for Mexico. We'll see if Santi Gimenez is a starter come the Copa America. I highly doubt it, but one of the many problems right now with the Mexican national team. But speaking of them, let's have a fun exercise here. How many Mexican players currently get into United States starting 11? I know we got some differing point of views. Andrew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think Edson Alvarez is having a great year, West Ham, and I think he would be our 6. I'd rate him higher than Tyler Adams, who's barely played. And I love Tyler. He had a great game yesterday. Scored that banger of a goal that I won't stop talking about. But Edson Alvarez is having a better season, so I start Edson Alvarez. And then this would be tough for me, but I mean, just because of pedigree, I'd start Memo Ochoa. Now, Matt Turner has had, a solid run for the U.S. In fact, his first 3 matches against Mexico, all clean sheets, which is insane for a U.S. goalkeeper against Mexico. So he's had a good run, albeit not a lot of action. last night, but yeah, I'd probably start Memo Ochoa just because of that. I'll defend Memo. The first goal, he could have seen. It could have been a shock for him. I don't think I wouldn't have expected Tyler Adams to shoot it all the way from out there. So I wouldn't blame that first goal on him. Second goal, sure, I see the argument for that. In many ways, I agree that he should have saved the second goal, but I would still, at this point, start him over Matt Turner, even just for 1 year, if that's all he has left. So that's 2, and that's it. That's how poor Mexico is right now. Yeah, Edson Alvarez over Tyler, and Memo Ochoa over Matt Turner.
Jacob, you agree?
Mine would be, I agree with some of that. Mine would be Lozano instead of Weah. I just think Lozano is a better player than Weah and has a lot more quality and can do a lot more going forward. And I know he's not in the best form, but I'd still take his not best form over Weah's best form. So I put him I put Gimenez in there, and because I think he's better than anyone that we have as a 9. So I'd have him. I'd have those 2. I'd probably put Edson Alvarez as our 6, though it's close because I do love Tyler Adams. And then although I didn't feel great about the way Ochoa played, I still believe in him, even at 38, more than Matt Turner. This is the problem, though. It's like, what Matt Turner? The national team Matt Turner or the Forest Matt Turner? The Forest Matt Turner is awful.
Yep.
The Forest Matt Turner is not even better than Robert Sanchez. Like, the Forest Matt Turner sucks. But the U.S. Matt Turner is a different story. But I think I'd still feel better about Ochoa.
Can I quickly counter
Sure.
Chucky? I thought about including Chucky Lozano as well over Weah. I thought about it. But you read about what the Mexican fans have to say about Chucky Lozano. They call him like a selfish player. He's a selfish winger. If he has someone breaking out on his on his left side for an open goal, he's going to take a shot himself. He's that type of player.
Yeah.
Or Tim Weah, I think, fits the team better.
Team player.
He's more of a team-oriented player than Chucky, and I think I'd rather have that at this time.
Fair.
So sure, Chucky, and I agree, Chucky probably has more quality than Weah. He's a better crosser than Weah for sure. But when it comes to selflessness, I think I'd rather have Weah. But get it, it's a good argument.
I know me and Ricardo are a little more critical of the players that potentially could get into the team. I would probably say Memo Ochoa gets in if we have a final tomorrow. But again, it's getting close. The gap is closing. If it's a final for the U.S. or internationally, I would say it's getting close. Because again, Jacob mentioned it spot on. Matt Turner's not having a good year with Nottingham Forest. A lot of bad decisions with the ball at his feet, more or less than what he's done as a shot stopper. And, that's, particularly in the Premier League when Nottingham Forest wants to possess this, and that's totally normal. So it's been a disappointing year for Matt Turner. I think I would go with 2 players, not the same as Andrew. I'd go with Memo Ochoa, and I'd probably go with Gimenez. If you're asking for a number 9 to just score his goals, Balogun not having a great season, Pepe's not playing a ton of minutes. So I'd probably go Santi Gimenez based off what he's done for Feyenoord. Alvarez, I think what's holding back for me on Alvarez is his lack of athleticism. I think he's really good in moments, and he's done a very good job for West Ham. But I think if Tyler Adams is fit, I think he's more athletic and go side to side, front and back. I just think that I'd take the athleticism as the number 6.
But Edson has that size. Yeah. He's got some beef on him. Tyler looks like, he's a wacky inflatable tube man.
That's
Andrew's had a lot of good comments today. Let's put it that way.
Carrying.
Ricardo, what are you thinking here?
Literally probably just Ochoa because it's just Ochoa still making save after save, even if he is older and not making the ones he would used to make. But I mean, like, just pure shot stopper wise, I think he's maybe slightly better than Matt Turner right now, but that's really about it, because everyone else is either mid or absolute trash. So that's my analysis of it. They're just not very good. So yeah, Ochoa is the only one. Honestly, I was even debating that one. I was like, not even a single player gets in because they all suck. But absolutely
harsh words, but honestly fair.
Like, sure. It's true.
Even worse, Christian going harsh, but honestly fair.
Because it's true.
Mid or trash. That's the words we've learned today.
Yeah, please put that on Twitter. That's my analysis for the day, guys.
All right. I know this is 2 episodes a day. You'll see this one first. So please check this one out. A couple days, you'll see one or more general episodes previewing what's to come, particularly in the Premier League. So check those both out. Thank you for watching, of course. Subscribe everywhere. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But, of course, thank you for watching, and check us out next time.